Hello everyone, welcome back to Rare Japanese Sounds. And yeah, it's that time of the month again, and to celebrate me showing you basically how much money I spend on useless vinyl records, I took the shirt and tie, but that just as a joke, honestly. Also, I changed the setup a little just so that I can show you from up close the things I buy. I think it's more user-friendly, at least for you, the viewers. And without saying much else, let's get into it with everything that I bought in the month of July 2020. And we're going to start by something I bought, I think, right before the beginning of July, and it's this record called Intaglio by Motohiko Hamase. And for those of you who are, let's say, regular viewers of the channel, you will remember me buying the CD back, I think, 1 or 2 months ago. And of course, the vinyl record is much harder to find. It's also much more expensive. This one, I think, cost me like around 40 to 45,000 yen. And I think the price is justified. The last time it sold was basically at least a few years ago, and it sold for about the same price, but it was in better condition. So it means that the record has increased in price, or maybe it's just variance due to, you know, simply the fact that records never always sell for the same price. But this record is so rare that I basically didn't really want to take the time to find a better copy. I'm just happy with my VG Plus copy, and I can move on to other things. This record also is part of the Shizun label, as you can see on the record itself and at the back of the sleeve, sorry. Yes, so Shizun label. I'm probably going to do a video about collecting the Shizun label because it's one of my favorite ones, especially for new age, but you will see that when we get into it. Next up, we have an album that is kind of a faint favorite, and I hope most of you already know it. It's the Casiopea's, the very famous fusion jazz band first album. Now, there is quite a lot to be said about this particular album. First, Casiopea is probably one of Japan's most well-known fusion bands, but their first album didn't sell that well, I would say, compared to their well, let's say the albums they released a bit later down the line, like Photographs, Jive Jive. Those are very easy to find in used record shops. But the first album, especially with this cover, which is much better known than the actual first cover for this album, which was the blue one that is where it kind of looks like all the members of Casiopea are high on drugs or something. Anyway, this cover for the record could only be found on later represses of the album. As you might know, the first albums by Casiopea, at least their first pressing, always have a red label with a 1 on it. But the represses should usually have either some kind of burgundy gradient label or a white label. And usually, at least for Superflight and their first album, the way it goes is, so you have the original red label, the first repress, which includes the new cover with the racing cars, has a burgundy gradient label, and then the second repress, so third press from 1983 gets a white label. This one, sorry, I don't have the time to take off the record and show you, but this one does have the burgundy label, which makes it the first appearance of that cover. Probably doesn't have much more value than the white label one, but it's interesting to know the differences, especially as Discogs currently is not very well up to date on as to which cover can have which label. But that's really if you are into the different types of presses and all that. Personally, I just like the cover because that's the one they kept for all the CDs and so on down the line. That's pretty much the only reason why I bought this album for, I think, 5,500 yen, so about $50. I think it was a pretty good price. The record is in good condition, but one record that is not in so good condition is this one, Aqua by Hiroshi Sato, which I bought actually only a few days ago. Same for this Casiopea albums. You can check Yahoo Auctions and find exactly how much I paid for what records. But anyway, Hiroshi Sato, very well known for Awakening, Orient, which you have seen in my earlier videos. Aqua is actually the last album that he ever released on vinyl record, which makes it extremely rare compared to, let's say, the CD version, or compared to his previous albums on vinyl record. Referring to Sound of Science, Future File. You know, when we get to the second half of the 1980s, Hiroshi Sato, at least, is not as popular as he is currently for his earlier releases, and more specifically Orient, Awakening, and This Boy. Honestly, I think Hiroshi Sato is such a great artist that his later albums, especially Aqua and Touch the Heart, are both extremely good and should definitely have much more recognition. My personal favorite is All of Me, which was released in 1994, only on CD, and nobody talks about it, but it's such a great album. And Hiroshi Sato has, developed his musical style over the years, and I think with Aqua you really get that modern Hiroshi Sato style, and you also get it on vinyl record. I paid around 9,000 yen, I would say, for this one, but the record is in worse condition than I expected, so I perhaps overpaid a little, but this one is kind of rare, so I don't know if I will get the opportunity to get another one anytime down the line. Maybe I will be focusing on other records, so I'm very glad to have this record, which is honestly the last one by Hiroshi Sato that I really, really wanted. And the other ones, as I said, Future File, Sound of Science, those ones are not as hard to find, also Sailing Blaster, and they hover around the 3,000 yen to 5,000 yen, depending on the condition. Of course, I'm still waiting to get This Boy, but I haven't found a good price for it, at least not recently. So I will kind of have to wait until I get it, but since it's a compilation, it's not as important to me as getting the original albums. Now we have another fan favorite. This is Ryo Fukui's second album. Of course, everyone knows Scenery, his first album that is now fetching, I would say, 80,000 yen at least if you have it in Nixon condition. This one, Mellow Dream, his second album, actually has more original works by Ryo Fukui than Scenery, which was mostly interpretations of famous jazz music. So this one has more original compositions, but it's not as popular for, I don't know exactly the reasons. Maybe it's not as appealing to a general audience because it's a bit more punchy than Scenery. But honestly, getting the original is something that 1 year ago I wouldn't have really thought possible, and I'm so glad to have had the opportunity to find this copy for at least something around 25,000 yen, maybe a bit less than that. And of course, every time you need to, take off at least 5 to 10% thanks to the different, cashbacks and the coupons you get for Yahoo Auctions. So yeah, all in all, I'm very happy with the record. Also with the condition of the record, it was in excellent condition. Of course, I don't have the hobby. Many of those records don't have the hobby because I'm not such a, I'm not the kind of guy that looks for always the pure pristine condition. I'm just happy to pay a good price for the condition I'm getting. And in this case, you get a beautiful cover in excellent states. The jacket is great too. Record is in great condition, and all that for less than 25,000 yen. I think it's going to break that limit pretty soon, and it's probably at least a 50,000 yen record. But that's just my personal opinion. And moving on, we have another very expensive record. Maybe it's not as well known as the previous ones I showed on this video, but here it is. For those who don't know, this record is actually part of the same label as Hiroshi Yoshimura's 9 Postcards and Satoshi Ashikawa's Static. No, what's it called? I forgot the name of the Still Way, sorry, the album by Satoshi Ashikawa. So those were part of the Wave Notation series on the sound design label. Sound process design, I'm not exactly sure. So there was then a third release on that Wave Notation series, which was interpretations of Eric Sadie's Piano Music by Satsuki Shibano. So those were the 3 albums on the Wave Notation series, but then there was one more record that was produced by the Sound Process Design label, and it is called Oscillation Circuit. I like the fact that they have a typo in the title, but that's just funny for me. It's part of a new series, as you can see. It's called the Siri Reflection 1. Because they probably meant to do a different type of music. As you will see if you listen to this album on YouTube, it is much more repetitive than even Still Way and 9 Postcards. It might seem like something hard to do, more repetitive than those albums, but it is extremely strange. Musically, it is both creative and extremely redundant in some way. It's very hard to describe why this album is so popular. I think it's mostly popular for its history and the fact that it was only sold probably 3 or 4 times since 2015. So I was extremely glad to pick up a copy of that. The condition of the record itself is not perfect, but I managed to snag this one for around 40,000 yen. I think was a fair deal. The jacket is in pretty good condition, apart from, sadly, there is a slight, I don't know if it's gonna pick it up on the camera, but there is a slight split at the bottom. I don't mind that too much. I just mostly enjoy having a clean cover to look at. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Probably not as well known as the other records I've shown, but that's it. So that's it for records. And now for the other type of media I've been buying. So I also bought this very, very beaten up cassette by Jadoes. You might remember Jadoes for being produced by Toshiki Kadomatsu. And their most famous album is probably Free Drink. This one is, I would say, perhaps their second or third well-known album. It's called A Lie. And I just found it on cassette. And those albums are actually very rare on cassette. For instance, I've never seen Free Drink on cassette, but A Lie, I found it for like 1,000 yen on auction. And honestly, I don't care if it's beaten up. It's so rare that I just felt great to have it and be able to put it in my collection. Another cassette I bought is Kenjiro Sakiya's Realism, so his second album. His first album, Difference, you probably saw it on the channel back a few videos ago, or perhaps a few months ago in the June or May purchases, I don't remember. But his second album, actually, I love some of the individual songs. I think as a whole album, Difference is better, but Realism has some individual songs that are really great, like Labenda Nonakade or something. Anyway, it's a great album, extremely rare again on cassette. All those albums are so hard to find that for the price I bought it for, which was 500 yen, I believe. Honestly, it's a no-brainer. It's such an easy purchase. It costs nothing, and the upside is huge if the album ever gets really popular. You never know what's going to happen, and if cassette tapes are going to get as popular as records are currently. We shall see. I also bought a CD, which I only bought because it was extremely cheap. I found it not on Yahoo Auctions, but on the Rakuten flea market app. It was sold for 500 yen because the seller had misspelled the artist name. And given how expensive the Katsumi Horii project albums are getting right now, especially the records, it's pretty cool to find a record for find a CD for 500 yen. Everything is popping off really in terms of price. And one thing I like about this album, I'm going to show you right away, is the fact that you get a little booklet which has like a ton of original drawings by Eijin Suzuki, who is an extremely popular Japanese artist in terms of illustrations. He has done the cover art for like such a huge number of Japanese album covers. And really, I think for that reason, it's cool to see an album that has not only the cover that is on original art, but also has a collection of nice artworks to look at. So yes, 500 yen, it's an excellent deal. And yeah, it's nice to be able to rip the CD and listen to it in a great quality. But for those later albums by the Katsumi Horii project, this one is from 1992, so you don't get anything else than the CD. Perhaps the cassette tape, but I've never seen it before. So those were my other media. And one other thing I wanted to show you is still related to the Katsumi Horii project. I've been trying to look at them a bit more lately because I can see their quality as a musical band. And really, I would love to get their records down the line if I can find them for a good price, which is definitely not getting easier. But I found this t-shirt that was released, I think back in 1990 something. I can't tell for sure, but it's an original t-shirt that was released back in the day for Sky Cruising, one of their better albums, I think, by the Katsumi Horii project. I haven't decided yet whether I'm gonna, put it out of its... if I'm gonna open it and wear it, or if I'm just gonna keep it as a collection piece. But what I know is the seller actually has more of those. So if you're interested in having an original Katsumi Horii t-shirt, you can send me a message, and I think we can maybe find a good deal to send it to you. And last but not least, I bought something that I really, really enjoy on a personal level. It's the biography of Hiroshi Yoshimura. And yeah, this is actually the single best book about Hiroshi Yoshimura that you can find anywhere. This is from the retrospective that was done on him in 2004, right after his death, at the Kagawa Prefectural Museum of Art. And like, you get so many details about Yoshimura's life, all the art installations he's done, and what I like the most is this page, which gives you a lot of details about every single album he's ever worked on. And his biography is also huge. Like, you have 10 pages of biography, and you learn so much about Yoshimura's life, everything he has worked on. And I will be extremely happy to make a better video about Hiroshi Yoshimura's everything he has worked on, because some of the things he has done are much more obscure than even the obscure albums I talked back in the Hiroshi Yoshimura, A Collector's Guide video. So I'm very looking forward to getting every fact straight and presenting it to you in a very easy way, so you can know exactly what to look for if you're a big Yoshimura fan. Anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed this kind of haul video of everything that I bought this month. It was kind of a lot, and I was honestly pretty surprised to like get so many albums that I've been waiting to collect for so long. I'm really happy about that, and honestly the list of all the records I'm looking for is shrinking month by month, and hopefully by October or November I will be pretty happy with my overall collection. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't hesitate to contact me if you have any question about the things I purchased, or if you have any question about something you want to purchase but can't find. Anyway, just feel free to contact me. That's what I'm here for. And until next week, this was Rare Japanese Sounds. Hope you enjoyed the video as always, and until next time, stay tuned.